Welcome, Pat, and Happy New Year 2026. Here we come.
2026, it's what, January 2nd, 2026? Where's the year gone already?
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you some numbers today that shocked me this morning. So bear with me here, folks. It's I add things up every morning. I casually just turn on the computer and go to my MLS, and I'm going to show you where I get them. I looked, and so I got one here just jumps out that we're going to talk about today. And then I want to look at some of the other numbers and say, okay, now where do we think these expireds and canceleds are going to, what are they going to do in January, February, March? Are they done? They're going to wait a year? They weren't 6 months? And what numbers will we look at to see what's going on? But check this out, Pat. And
Hey, Debbie.
the ticker down below. Yeah, Debbie, welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Here's what I look at every morning, and I put it on my Excel sheet. Now, it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to show you my handy dandy magnifying glass. First, I add up new listings right there. Then I add up back on market, which came in at 925. For some reason, it's kind of messing me up here. Let me see. So I'll read these to you. So we had, over the past 7 days, we had 925 listings come back on the market. Now, if they come back on the market after 45 days, then it's a new listing. So these are people that made a decision kind of quick. And getting a phone call here that I need to mute. And so I got 580 canceled listings. But look at the number of expired listings, 2,740 the past week. Now that's going to go up the next couple of days. It's just the end of the year. The high numbers we've been seeing expireds have been about 1,200, 1,500. And you think about this. I mean, we closed 2,153 homes the past 7 days, but 2,740 of them, their listings expired. They're done. And 1,260 pending. So out of that, I put them in my little handy dandy spreadsheet here. And you can see the yellow part. See, it's hard to see, but see how it just fell off the map? Mm-hmm. That's the number of new listings. But yet the number of new contracts are already starting to go up. Kind of a hopeful sign for the market. But in overall, we had 21,702 canceled for the year and 7,835. And you can see the difference from the years prior. So it was a year where people tried. They didn't try very hard, but they couldn't get the price. And so they got out 21,000, excuse me, just said, take it off the market. 7,800 said, well, let's let it run till the end of the contract and then let's let it die its own death. So what do we think going into January? Because second week of January, that's when our new listings start showing back up. With that huge number of canceled listings and expired, I wonder how many of those are going to give it the old college try again.
That's the $1 million question, obviously, because people are testing the market to see what they can get. I mean, as far as listing prices, I mean, as far as how they've fallen off. You look at my position, rates started last year at 7%. They're at 6.25% right now. So, we're starting off the year from an interest rate standpoint a heck of a lot better than we were last year. But I mean, that's, once again, it just tells you that people have equity that they can play with. They don't really, how serious are they?
Yeah, you don't have, Debbie, those numbers are Maricopa and part of Pinal. So they include City of Maricopa and Santan, which is Pinal, Coolidge, Florence. So, and a few different towns out and about, but for the most part, Maricopa County. Yeah, I agree. You're saying there's a lot of equity. I mean, look, if this was a market that was facing desperation, we wouldn't see that many canceled listings. We'd see price reductions just rampantly hitting the market.
Yeah.
So we're not seeing that. The other thing that, excuse me, my voice a little raspy here. this is something I'm not paying a lot of attention to right now. I do normally. It's the Cromford Market Index by city, showing all green except for one's red, one's yellow. Red meaning Paradise Valley. It's a very small sampling size. But so everybody improved. Well, why? Well, because we had fewer and fewer listings. And sales kind of stayed kind of flat. So when you're looking at these charts on a holiday week, you just kind of look at it, nod, and smile, and go, okay, I'll check right back with you in about 3 weeks. Next week, week after, it's going to be a lot of red in these numbers as the listings come back. What happens at every year, first of the year, you can see that pending sales climb every year, January, February, kind of level off in March. So I expect that we'll come out and start hitting it that way. And hey, Justin, welcome. Thanks for coming in. Jackie's here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jackie.
She calls everybody her favorite boys, Pat. I don't know. I see. Here is the Cromford Market Index for Anthem. It's been kind of flat all year. Nothing really knocking us around. Apache Junction starting to show an increase, and I think it's
what line is this year? I mean, what lines are
the red one? So,
okay.
So if I pull out 2023, let's just compare the past 2 years. So the red one, we finished the year higher. Arizona City, way lower. They got pounded down there. Look at that. They're down to 43.8.
Who's
trying to sell home in Arizona City. Ooh. And then Avondale, kind of flat for the year, lower than last year as an index. Buckeye, kind of flat, but climbing up. Now, if you want to know what's going on in your zip code, that QR code is somewhere on this page. But there's a link down below in the description, and you can click on that, and I can send you a pretty comprehensive report for your zip code. Casa Grande, pretty flat, but then climbing almost back to where they were in August.
How about Chandler Gilbert?
I'm getting there. This is alphabetical.
Okay.
Cave Creek, 132. They're climbing up. They're doing pretty good. And Chandler has been climbing since about October.
Mm-hmm.
So
that seems like Jackie had talked about that, and she had talked to a couple of people. It seemed like the market was firming up in September, October. And obviously it firmed up. I mean, that's when you got to look at the correlation between rates. Rates started coming down in September, October. So
Fountain Hill's up. Gilbert's up. I'm hoping next week I've got a guy on that knows a lot about what's going on with that water situation in Gilbert, people's water bills. He's been going to all the city council meetings and the backroom meetings. I can't wait to talk to this guy. Jackie says, our Maricopa listing's getting no showings. All of our other listings, I'm getting multiple showing requests. I've had 4 requests just today. Well, when you look at Maricopa, you can see why. They're down here at an index of 53.6, and they've been down there in the 50s all year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're even worse than last year. We got Glendale here cranking about the same as last year, hugging out there, and almost done here. Gold Canyon's having a tough time. They dove down 65.5. That's in the far, far East Valley. Goodyear is having a good year. They're at 85.1. That's considered balanced. And we have Laveen back right to last year in the balanced market. And Litchfield Park, right below balanced in a buyer's market at 72.9. And we showed you Maricopa. What about Mesa here? And I don't want to skip Peoria because I get a lot of people ask me about that all the time. So here's Peoria. You are in a buyer's market, balanced seller's market, barely at 104. And Surprise coming in at 66.4. Some of the over 55 areas kind of took a hit, like Sun Lakes. They're really getting beat up this year. They're totally in a buyer's market at 70.8. Last year, 108. So I'm going to stick my neck out and say that's Canadian. Surprise, we're sitting here at 66. and we'll call it at Tempe, and they are about even with last year. So that's kind of a rundown of what's going on in the area. But we're still not expecting a whole lot of whoop-de-doo when it comes to rates, are we?
No, I mean, we probably should have done, didn't we do this last year? Kind of, I gave our yearly prediction.
Well, everybody was saying, remember, everybody was saying 4 to 6 rate cuts and the buyers are going to come out.
Yeah. I
now
don't know.
The narrative's changed. Well, we're going to get a new Fed chairman in May. Wait till you see what happens then. That might be the biggest ho-hum we see all year.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be kind of interesting to see what we think, going forward. Obviously, our last 2-year predictions were pretty, we basically said it was going to be 2 years. Last 2 years, we called it at the beginning of the year. We said it was going to be a ho-hum market, which for the most part, ho-hum or balance, whatever you want to call it. Nothing crazy. There was no fireworks, basically.
No, but we muddled along.
Yeah, I know that's our word. Yeah, well, that was my word, muddled, right?
You can get a muddling along T-shirt if you look at my products down on the page there.
Okay. I'll double check that. I'll go shopping after we're done. But the last couple of weeks have been somewhat just mundane on rates. Nothing crazy. Kind of sitting back in the low 6s range. Once again, there hasn't been a lot of fireworks, like you said. I think
sorry to jump in, but has there been another 1 or 2 year period where that line's been as flat as that one is?
Oh man, let's see. Pull it back. Let's go back. I don't know how many years. This is going back to. This is the 10-year Treasury going back.
It doesn't look like it.
No, if you see, so obviously this is going back to 2006. So we're talking 20 years. 26. Yeah, this is a 20-year chart. But we had, the 10-year Treasury was back in 2006 was at 5.14. And we had this, downward trend for many years on rates. And then, we bottomed out August of 2020. But then we saw this spike outward. But yeah, you look at, that's a good point. That's a very good point, actually, is like you look at this trend, and this is, what I've been, barking about the last, or maybe whatever, barking or talking about the last year is just this range that we've been in since you see about July, August of 2023. It's just been this range right in here. And who knows, do we know any more than anybody else? No, we just try to give people some information. But like I said, the Fed chair changing in May, we'll see. But I think there's going to be more, bark than bite. I just don't see how, Trump can put all the pressure he wants on the Fed. But once again, I think that's pretty crappy, for lack of a better term, a president just cannot jawbone the Fed and what they want to do. It's just kind of asinine. Excuse my French, but I just don't see it. I correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, now we've got this chatter and this push about they're going to come out with this housing plan, and I'm looking around going, to build more affordable housing. We've got a lot of inventory in new construction here. I think it's anywhere from a 6 to a 9 month supply. So we don't have a shortage of new homes. Not here in the valley. We have a shortage of homes in the central part of our valley, like Chandler, Gilbert, Phoenix, for people that don't want to move way out to Buckeye, Maricopa, Santan, Surprise. But out in those areas, that's why you see those CMIs down in the 50s. So I don't, so what's the federal government's going to go on? We're going to issue permits to build on federal land. I don't even know where the federal land is in Arizona.
No, there's some in Scottsdale and stuff like that. But all these plans, it's just kind of ridiculous. It's a short term. It's going to be a fix that's going to fix something in the next 6 to 12 months. Hell no. And I just don't see it. Once again, it boils down to affordability issue. We've talked about it's plain and simple affordability issue. You've got
we're better off they stay out of it. Otherwise, real estate will turn into healthcare.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's no way, whatever they are trying to fix, it's not going to be a 6, 12, 18 month. We're talking several years of issues that we have to deal with. And it's really, there's a lot of issues, the permitting, how long it takes to build a home, really the cost of building a home, that there's so many factors that go into it. How much can you really affect a home? Are you going to bring a $500,000 home down to 350, 375,000, 400, drop it down
Well,
100,000?
there really isn't any federal permitting that goes on. That's all local.
Local. Yeah. Yeah.
And our
Yeah.
permitting is not that expensive. That's like, about 5,000.
Yeah.
So it's not, they're not going to be able to pull that down. You're going to have the city of Scottsdale, city of Gilbert, look at their permit process, and keep it local. And that's the way it should be. Local planning commission should be able to detail out how they want their housing developments put. Yeah, I don't want to see a federal footprint put in any one of our communities. I know that one President Obama, he tried to do that, and there was a lot of pushback. So you don't want that. So you want them just to kind of they can do a lot with lumber prices. So go out and play in that sandbox, but don't come in and try to change our zoning laws thinking that's going to help, because you'll end up with, we're from the government, we're here to help. And that's my little.
Well, speaking of lumber price, I mean, we got a lot of smart people in this country. I mean, instead of building a home with lumber, build it, you got these 3D constructed homes. I don't know how, some of those, I've seen a couple of them. I mean, we could think outside the box. You can build a home with that damn system probably in 3 to 4 weeks, it seems like.
Yeah, they're pretty quick. I know that there was one down in the Tucson area that was going like crazy between here and Tucson. And I think they packed up and left town, so they weren't quite getting the volumes they'd hoped for. But that's an interesting way to build a house. And you're right, but that's an example of the free market. If this commodity gets too expensive, they move to another one to replace it. Mm-hmm. Silver's in a massive shortage right now because it's being used for anything electrical for data centers. My son told me that buying RAM for a computer that used to cost $200 is now $600 because it's all being gobbled up by these data centers.
Wow.
And so that's incredibly expensive. And that's another thing to watch in 2026 is, they're putting all these data centers out there. A lot of them aren't going to be done in 2026. They might be the year after, but how many of them are we really going to put in here? And are they going to have some solutions for us regarding the electric grid? So there's a lot to consider there. And quite honestly, they don't add a lot of jobs. No. They add a lot of construction jobs, but once they're done, it's, 20 to 50 people riding around in a golf cart, making sure everything's humming. So I think, and the other thing about artificial intelligence that I've been reading more and more, and I'm trying to learn it as much as I can, see what I can implement. But, they're really, so far, these big companies, there's no product in AI. There's no profit. There's all this venture capital going into Sam Altman's AI company, OpenAI, and he's just burning through the cash. So what is the ultimate product with OpenAI that brings in revenue? And you'll notice that none of them have gone public yet. Mm-hmm. So you usually have these things happen in stages. You start a company, you're losing money, you start to make it profitable, you're showing consistent profits, and then you go public. Well, we haven't even got to the profitable part yet. They're still, and venture capital is just willing to keep throwing money after them like crazy. So I think AI is going to be the conversation of our economy, and I think into real estate all year. Some of the AI in real estate you may feel, you may not. Just a lot of stuff that happens in the backgrounds that streamline things for us. But the majority of realtors are just using AI to write property descriptions. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think your industry is going to go through a major change. But again, what's the consumer going to feel? There's like, hey, when am I going to see some affordability here? And we're seeing it. We're not seeing it at the rate that some people would like, but it is coming down. Wages are above inflation. Interest rates have pulled down. Prices have come down a little bit, not by much. But even if I pull up the average price per square foot for our market, guess what? It's a flat line all year, Pat.
Yeah.
Maybe down 1.2%. But again,
Well,
it varies by neighborhood.
there's nothing. I mean, that goes with the same thing this last couple of years. There's nothing that you and I have been talking about, or anybody else can talk about, that's really gonna just be a bomb and say, okay, if somebody's looking to buy a house, I think people are waiting for that, try to time the market. And I've been talking to a couple of people the last couple of weeks. They're like, I really can't time the market. I'm like, no, if you're in a position, as we talk about, you're never going to be able to time it. There's nothing out there that really says it's going to just go from here to there. And you're like waking up one day and, okay, I can afford a house now.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be a slow burn. It's going to be a slow burn. And the people that are buying homes if they're in a position. The biggest thing that I see, from my end, like you said, rates, they're sitting around the low sixes. The biggest thing I see that causes people to either buy a home or not buy a home is certainly their debt to income ratio. Their debt, the car payment, the $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 car payment, and if people got rid of that, they could certainly be in a much better position to buy a home. That's what I see year after year, is that they've got some payment, and obviously you got the student loan payments now. You got they're not deferred, so it's going to be interesting. It's still going to be a struggle. I mean, I wish you and I could say something like, "Oh, this market's turning around the next 30 to 60 days," but
so if we look at this and we just kind of analyzed the numbers going forward, getting the second week of January, we always see listings start to increase. So what we're going to look at is we're going to see, okay, what's the total number of listings? We're sitting here now at 22,400, something like that. We're going to spike up probably 26,000 maybe. And so, but then we say, well, where are they coming from? And are they coming from back on market? If that back on market number starts to climb, that tells me that sellers are deciding to come back.
Mm-hmm.
If that kind of remains the same, we're seeing new listings. So we got a whole new group of people. Just jumping in. We've got here no debt here, but fixed income. Is that hard?
No, a fixed income is usually if you got good fixed income, if fixed income fits in with your payment, typically, like I said, the debt to income ratio is mid 40s to high 40s. Fixed income is usually, if you have 3 years, you have to have 3 years continuance. Like Social Security, sometimes you have to, like if it's sometimes child support and stuff like that, you have to have over 3 years. So fixed income is usually fairly it's just an equation. How do you fit? How does a fixed income fit into your payment? So
tell me, as a first time home buyer, FHA versus conventional, what should I look at? I've got, like she said, good credit score, good debt to income ratio. She has zero debt. Okay. So what do I want to look at? Because I know the FHA loans have a lower interest rate, right?
Yeah, they have a lower interest rate, but obviously they've got the upfront mortgage insurance premium, 1.75. So I mean, it's that's a chunk of money that's added on the top of a loan. It varies. I mean, you got conventional. You just have to weigh it out. I mean, FHA is a little bit more lenient, and sometimes they're not lenient because you have to have certain, there's certain things that they kind of hit you over the head with.
Oh, they're difficult if you're trying to buy a condo. Whew.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, well, either FHA and conventional are tough if you're buying a condo, both of them. But conventional is obviously the best way to go because you have no. Well, it depends on your credit score too. Because if you have, I talked about this a couple shows ago about the mortgage insurance. If you got great credit, mortgage insurance is really reasonable for somebody that's in the 760, 780 credit score and higher. FHA just got a little bit more flexibility. FHA can go up to typically, in the 50% range, over 50% in terms of debt to income. So it might allow you to squeeze into something, house. It just depends. Like I said, there's sometimes varying degrees of one, but if you really had to weigh it out, conventional would be the best way to go because conventional's got a 3% down program for first-time home buyers. So it really boils down to everybody's case-by-case basis. You just have to weigh it out and see which way you can go. You
Well,
know,
it has to be explained too, which is, and that's the reason I brought it up is that, when you're out shopping for mortgages, don't just click on rates on the computer, because there are scenarios like this that, well, do I want to go conventional? Do I want to go FHA?
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's where I think someone like myself, not to pat myself on the back, but I will.
It's a new year. Go ahead.
Huh?
It's a new year. Go ahead.
Yeah, what the hell? I feel good about but there's a lot of times that people go to these call centers. What's your rate? Like, once again, we've pounded this into the dirt a million times, but it's not just about. It is about rate, but it's also about getting the deal done and looking at, because everybody is. You just can't talk to your next door neighbor and say what it, because I hear this all the time. Oh, my next door neighbor got this rate. Well, you can't. It's just.
Does he have your car payment?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I know what people are trying to get at. They're trying to get a good deal. I work hard to try to price people where they are getting. Like I said, being a mortgage broker, I've got multiple lenders to go to, and I'm not stuck to one bank, which is really nice. I feel like I'm working for the client and not the bank. When you go to a bank, they're basically quoting you one set, their rates, their guidelines. And there's, I was reading on Facebook, this brokers are best Facebook, post that I belong to. And they did, they talked about being a mortgage broker, and you've got certain banks have got certain overlays and guidelines that they can't. You might want to take one loan to bank A and they can't get it done, but you go to, people say, well, why couldn't my bank do it, but you can do it? Every bank's got different risk layers. They call them overlays, where, okay, we'll do this, but we won't do this. But the other bank will like, that's no problem. We won't even look at that. So that's why, being a broker, I feel so much more flexibility and I feel like, I'm working for the client and not the bank, which makes me feel good. I mean, I had a deal recently with a client, variable income, and I was showing income at this one rate, and it looked like it was going to get cut down. But then I called the underwriter and I explained to her, hey, you're not looking at this. You're like, oh, you're right. I kind of forgot. I looked at it, and she said, yeah, every underwriter looks at variable income a little bit differently. And variable income, and I was talking to another loan officer this morning, just kind of get off the track a little bit. I was talking to a loan officer earlier today, and you get one underwriter that looks at when a client calls us and say, hey, how much income do you make per year? Like, 85,000. Well, people don't realize that, but then they're getting hourly income. They get paid hourly, they get overtime, they get bonus. So, but in the client's mind, they're making $85,000 a year. But we have to break it down by, overtime, the bonuses. Is it variable? If variable rate is basically, if you're working, you're getting hourly rate, and if you have any variance in our hours, they might have to average it. So it's bottom line is, everybody is different. If you work with somebody individually, these call centers, quite frankly, they're not good for, we'll look at scenarios, because they're all about volume. I'm not about volume. I'm talking case by case. Client A, client B, client C. I've got a handful of clients I'm working on. I'm not working on 300 clients. You call a call center and they're just churning them out, and they might miss something, and somebody could not get approved there, but they might get approved at one of the lenders that I work with. So, I mean, I'm kind of going around, but there's a lot of different people, a lot of different scenarios. And I think we're seeing some challenging times because people have part-time jobs. They've been working part-time jobs for a couple of years. They got varying incomes. So you really kind of have to dig deep into some files to get the loan approved. But I think, overall, lenders, and the thing of it is, that's another thing too, is lenders will tighten up guidelines or loosen up guidelines depending on how they see the market. Well,
the other thing that's going on this year, Pat, is there's a lot of action in the multiple listing service, what's called portal wars. Zillow, Compass, Realtor.com. A lot of lawsuits out there that are floating around. And so I kind of wanted to just take a minute and explain what the MLS is, multiple listing service. And it's all about data integrity. In other words, the numbers that you look at and the facts that you see are correct, but it's self-policing. So in other words, if I see a listing and there's something wrong in there, I call the agent. Hey, just heads up, you've got here that it's got this, it doesn't. Oh gosh, I'll get it and correct it. And if they don't, then you take it to the MLS, the association, and they get it fixed. So the MLS is all about giving you confidence as a buyer that what you're looking at is accurate. Because in the old days, it was just guys sitting around a picnic table going, I got a listing down the street, Clem. But there's a lot of stuff. And I don't know if you've ever seen this, Pat, on what it takes to add a listing. And Jackie will appreciate this because she's had like 10 of these this month.
Thanks, Jackie. I appreciate the kind words. And Bobby, she's obviously appreciate the kind words, Bobby.
So you got the list price, the status, the expiry, all the financial stuff, the subdivision, taxes, who the owner is. I never put the owner's name in here or their phone number because then they get called when it's expired. Builder name. What was the year built? Okay, so that's your first page. You got to pick the right school. And then you put in the cross streets, the directions, the public remarks, beautiful house, epic views, several miles away from Pat. And then there's private remarks, which is agent to agent. Hey, don't lock the gate, stuff like that. So that's that page. Look at this on the details. Look at all these fields that we have to fill out. Legal info, township, section, block, short sale, lender owned, auction, all of these things. So when you're talking about data integrity, this is what it means. We have to fill out all this stuff, special listing conditions. And this is what shows up when you look at a listing. But all of this has to be done and signed off by the seller. The flooring, what kind of flooring is there? Carpet, laminate, stone, tile, wood? And these AI is not going to do this. Dining areas. So it takes a lot of time to put all this stuff together. And what it does is it shows up, and I'm going to leave this. It shows up in a listing. So I'll just go ahead and pick one here randomly, and I'll show you why all that stuff matters. So here's a house here in Clarkdale, and I get into the detail page, and you can see all this stuff here. I'll pull up my handy dandy magnifying glass. Bedrooms plus, bathrooms, half bath. People look at that first. Year built, flood zone, private pool, yes or no. Number of stories. Then you got out the lot size. This has to be accurate. Okay. And then you get down into here, features, room details, construction, utilities. This is all populated by that form that I just showed you.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't, you're kind of showing me behind the scenes, which I didn't know. Interesting. After
now, there's another
25 years.
Tricky part that people don't know either. And that is,
it's a lot of time. I mean, it's just to jump in. It's not, there's a lot of detail, obviously. You kind of assume. It's kind of interesting you're pulling it up because you just assume, that's, just information here, but that's information you've got to input.
Here's the big one here down the bottom here. Put it in List Hub. I don't know why my magnified List Hub. Check that. Now your listing is everywhere. And that's where some of the portal wars are coming in. Compass wants to have their listings on theirs for, a week and then put it on them, or they want it to be exclusive listings. I think you're shorting yourself as a seller if you don't just say, hey, let's put it there. But we have to talk to the seller and say, okay, let's look at these. Do you want your listing to not be used in AVMs on the internet? In other words, people can get in and decide what your home is worth. You don't want that. Seller directs listing not to allow comments on the internet. You also want that. That's like a, what do I want to say? Doing a
chat room.
Review. Yeah, doing a review for a restaurant. I wanted an IDX. That's the service. That's the MLS service that puts the listing out everywhere. Then you got apartments.com, curfew. And so anyway, that has to be filled out as well. So a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. And Debbie says, you mentioned AI. When I'm looking at houses on Zillow, it tells me a suggested offer price and the probability of presenting to that price offer being accepted. Yeah, that's about as close as Pat and I telling you what the interest rate's going to be in June of 2026.
That's
Good luck with that. First of all, the price is not what matters. It's the strategy. Okay. Because you and I can pick a price, Pat, but it's the market that determines what the price is. And so you have to have a strategy. Okay. If they're not warm to our price, what are we going to do next?
well, we had talked about that last couple of shows as far as sitting down. Wasn't it a couple of shows ago we were talking about how they were just remember back in the day, some of these the agents, maybe I don't know, old, new, I don't know, but inexperienced, are like, oh, bring me your highest and best.
Oh, I hate that.
I mean, just that shows me no critical thinking skills whatsoever. Bring me your highest and best. I mean, that was kind of going along with the time frame of when people were crushing it.
The silly season.
Silly, stupid season. But you have
well,
to
you
have
never know where to come in on highest and best because you're trying to compete. And you get one shot at it.
Well, that's where I think communication between the agent and the client. I mean, that's where you get some of these people that there's text, the communication link or skills of calling and talking and what should we do, and I think that's a lost form or lost art. You agree with that?
Well, I can understand how it got really overwhelming when you had a listing back in 2021. I mean, you just kind of look. I would tell my sellers, are you okay with me sharing the offer prices that are coming in with other agents?
Mm-hmm.
My recommendation was always yes. Now I had one agent that his head exploded at the thought of me doing that. Well, sometimes people come in, in this one house, they came in an open house and the agent that was showing the house told them at my direction, tell them, be upfront. We have an offer, but we haven't accepted it yet. Now, she said, well, I'm out. I don't want to get caught in the bidding war. I'm leaving. And she left the house. Now, he wouldn't allow us to say, we have an offer that hasn't met our expectations. So all we're telling her is they haven't offered us our list price yet. Now you know. Okay. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So they offered a house. It was $1 million, and they didn't get $1 million on the offer. So maybe if I come in closer to $1 million, they'll consider mine. Now you haven't kicked somebody out of your open house. You gave them something to chew on.
Yeah.
When the bidding process starts, it's okay to say, just hammer the phone like an auctioneer sometimes. You go, okay, we're here. Well, then you get the ones that came in 2021 said, just put me in $1,000 above what the highest price is. Well, then they have an escalation clause. The next person does. The next person.
That was stupid season. But I think you're in a time frame. I think you're in a time frame now where our negotiation is even stronger, or the skill, because now you've got time. Like we talked about, you've got time.
You've got time now. You got time to get it right. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, you can sit back and think, and sometimes people think about stuff too long and they lose out. That's the problem too, is that people get caught between a rock and a hard spot. Like, oh, we got time. It's been listed for 65 days. We got time. In the last couple of months, I've had people that are out looking, and recently, last 3-4 months, I've had a handful of people that were kind of like, well, the house has been on the market 75, 80 days, dragging their feet. All of a sudden, boom, they really like that house. And I've seen that from my standpoint. I mean, I just sit there. I'm like, well, you
scooped up,
you screwed up. And, unfortunately, people, I think this market could do that too to some people. Once again, if you like something, that's a unique house, you got unique, you have unique needs. You got a certain house that you're looking for. You can't do a lot. I mean, this market's giving you some room to think, sit back and think and make the right decision. But on the other hand, there's some times where I like this house. I'll try to negotiate. maybe give them a little bit lower price, but not insult them, but let's try to negotiate to get this deal done.
Jessica went out and looked at a house up in Scottsdale last week. Had a past client call me, so she went ahead and took them out, and it was $500,000 in a neighborhood where the homes were $1 million. Opened up the door, they weren't even going to walk in there. Trash up to their knees, including food, just the whole house, just unbelievable. And then we find out there was an article on Channel 12 News.
Yeah, hoarding.
Two ladies were trying to sell that house. They told the buyer, give us cash, $400,000, but we have to have it in 48 hours. And so he started the process. He's a pretty smart agent. So he started the process and he started looking at the deeds. He goes, the handwriting's the same on both buyer and seller. And then he was pressing him, are you related to the seller? Who is the seller? They could never answer the questions. So he called the police and said, we need to start looking at this. And they busted him. But they got their name on it.
Jessica was that was a deal that Jessica was involved in or looked at?
She wasn't involved in it. And this all happened before they got that sorted out, and then they put the house back on the market for $500,000. But they somehow corralled this house, said it was theirs, and tried to move it for $400,000.
How do people think
back in November?
How do people think they're going to get away with this stuff? I've been in finance for 38 years. I find it's a very simple policy for me. Tell the truth, be straightforward with people, honest with people. I don't know how these guys, still see these mortgage scams. I know we're getting off topic a little bit, but I still see some of these mortgage scams. I'm like, what? If you're that smart, why don't you just do things the right way and be straightforward and honest with people? I think that's what people appreciate, being straightforward and honest. How people can think they get away with this stuff with the electronics and the computers now. I don't know how they do it.
Well, and that's why we give sellers what's called a seller disclosure, and it asks you everything about the house. Be as honest and straightforward in that as you can. In other words, look, if there was a leak in the roof, put that down, because I guarantee you the inspector's going to find a spot up there or a repair and go, you didn't say anything about the leak on the roof. Oh, yeah. Well, now they think you're lying about everything else. Yeah. So you've got to be straight and upfront. I had one seller that he practically wrote War and Peace on this house. It was just in North Central Phoenix, and he just paragraph stuff. They get into the attic and they find mold up above the behind the kitchen cabinets. Turns out a condenser line had been dripping for years, not enough to leak down into the house. And they said he knew about this, and we pointed out and goes, he's 6'5". He can't fit in the attic crawl space. In fact, the inspector couldn't fit in there either. So the lawyers got a hold of it. And what'd they do? They looked at his seller disclosure form. They said, he's got so much detail in this, there's no way he was lying about that roof or that leak. He said he was so honest and straightforward. I mean, he just didn't say yes or no. He just, So the seller disclosure form is to protect the seller because you're informing the buyer of history. So that's another thing that's a requirement by our board and our association, of which I just paid my dues this week.
Hey, good for you.
Over $500. Ugh. Every December.
Like speaking of that, speaking of seller disclosure, it's too bad I'm going to do. We're 43 minutes in. It's too bad they didn't have like on a dating site all the disclosure forms that
you had to be 20 minutes late. So yeah. That's why I think my son gave me this mug for you. It says you're on mute. That's what I got for Christmas. It's a big flipping mug too. Well, Pat, we will see what happens. Let's come back next week and let's take a look at the listings and see what we can glean out of that.
So we don't have any prediction. We're not going to have a prediction show. I mean, it's pretty much same old. I mean, I don't see rates moving around, and we're going to see, I think, the same low sixes. I think there's going to be a decent probability. I'm thinking I've had people that wanted to refinance that I've been trying to tell you. My goal is to get people the best. If I just wanted to refinance people for the sake of refinancing, I had several people in the last month or two that, they could have just done it. But I just feel like we're going to see a creep of rates. They're going to go a little lower. And my goal, I want people to get, if they're not in a rush, they don't have any particular reason to refinance right away. I just been telling people, hey, hang tight. I think we're going to see a creep into the fives. solidly, and we're not that far away. I mean, this last year we saw rates quietly go from 7 to 6.125%, 6.25%. So who knows? But I think we will. There's a decent probability that we will see the 5s. I think sooner than later. This next 30 to 60 days. So see what I mean.
Well, we'll see what happens. In the meantime, Pat, I will see you next week.
All right, buddy. Take care, everybody.